Hi there, I'm James Fenner. I'm an illustrator in Portland, Oregon, and welcome to An Illustrated World, a podcast that merges my love of travel and illustration, where I call people from around the world, different cities, different countries, and try to get a little bit of insight into the culture there, and maybe some cool things to do that are a little bit off the beaten path. I'm aiming this podcast to be a little bit more geared towards people who are traveling on a budget and on typical time constraint for about 5 to 7 days. If you live somewhere or you visited somewhere recently that you think would be a great fit for the show, please email me at illustratedworldpodcast.com and let's schedule talk-in sometime. We can see if it works, see if it's a fit, and if it is, then I'll make an episode out of it, and that's pretty cool. I hope that you guys enjoy. This is a little bit of a work in progress. This is the inaugural episode, so it's really like, if it's not a train wreck, I will be happy. So thanks for listening to me ramble, and enjoy. Hi there, everyone. Welcome to An Illustrated World, the inaugural episode, actually. This is James Fenner. Today we're going to be talking about Albuquerque, New Mexico. Balloons, sunsets, and Christmas. So, joining us today to talk about Albuquerque, New Mexico is James Mead. That's how I pronounce your last name, right?
Yes, yeah.
All right, so welcome to the podcast, and tell us a little bit about yourself and your connection to Albuquerque.
Well, I am an illustrator currently stationed in Kansas City, Missouri, and my connection to Albuquerque, New Mexico is that I've lived there since I was about 5 years old, really, and I've lived there on and off throughout my adolescence and my teenage years. So,
You still have family there?
yeah, my parents live there, my older brother lives there, and I always go back home for like Christmas break and such.
Right, as you will. So you have like a contemporary look at it, so you know all the stuff that's going on. So we were talking a little bit about the itinerary. So like
Christmas break and such.
Right, as you will. So you have like a contemporary look at it, so you know all the stuff that's going on. So we were talking a little bit about the itinerary. So like loosely, like what time of year should we go? What sort of things should we do?
Okay, I'm glad that you asked what time of year you should go, because I was about to say it's Albuquerque is great any time of year, but specifically when it's the best to go, I would say is in October during the balloon fiesta.
Right, that's one of the only things I know about.
This is probably one of the things that Albuquerque is most famous for, is because of the weather climates and the way, I guess, the winds interact with the environment. Albuquerque has the perfect weather conditions for ballooning, hot air ballooning. So specifically, the time of year to go is in October when the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta is happening, because you're going to get to see like a lot of cool hot air balloons, as well as like really fun events that like happen during those hot air balloons.
Like what?
Well, like on Fridays and Saturdays specifically, and this would be like in the latter half, I would say like if you had the 5-day itinerary, you go, like you would get there on like a Tuesday or something, or like a Tuesday or Wednesday. On like a Friday or the Saturday of the trip, I would suggest that you make an event where the one day you decide to wake up early and go to the balloon fiesta to watch the morning glow and to see all the hot air balloons rise. And basically on like Friday and Saturday is when they usually have all the special shapes.
Oh, okay.
They have like, I think it's the bees, I think, are like hot air balloons designed to be like in memoriam for breast cancer survivors, or one of them has the breast cancer survivor pin. There's one that's Noah's Ark. There's another one that's the Wells Fargo wagon, which is also pretty cool. I think one of them is like a cactus. One or two of them are houses. I haven't been in at least a couple years because of school, but the last time I was there, it's like they keep updating the catalog of kinds of special shapes with hot air balloons.
So they have the morning glow. What is that? You mentioned that very briefly.
Yeah, the morning glow is basically if you've been to Albuquerque, you know that there's the Sandia Mountains, and the sun always rises like behind the mountains.
Mm.
So the casting of the shadow of the mountains like makes it dark for like a little bit longer than it would be after the sun
Oh,
normally
okay.
rises. Um, and so the morning glow, basically all the special shapes and all the regular hot air balloons, like they rise and they light up because of the fire from the hot air balloons. So you get to see these like giant glowing
Oh my gosh.
shapes in the sky,
That's
and
incredible.
it's morning, and it's wonderful. It's one of my favorite things. I even just like remember it vividly because my parents would always take me as a kid.
Hmm.
So that's probably why I have such a fondness for like the glow events where the sun is setting or the sun is rising and the hot air balloons are lighting up because it feels magical. It's
Oh yeah.
like
Where else can you experience that? Because it is like so packed together. I've heard that they're touching physically when they take off sometimes, which
yeah.
is incredible. And you said it happens in the morning. How early should you leave? Because I've heard the traffic is horrendous for that.
The traffic is horrendous. The my suggestion would be, at least from what I remember, is you'd have to wake up really early. Like I would suggest 3 or 4 is when I remember waking up as a kid.
Okay.
Even my parents were like, "Come on, kids, we gotta get in the car now. The traffic's gonna be bad. We want to get there earlier, or rather than later."
Yeah.
And usually around that time, and even then, it's like the traffic is still bad, but you can at least get parking,
Hmm.
so to speak. And there's usually a lot of parking with the balloon field or the balloon parking lot or the balloon center parking lot. I'm butchering the name, my
That's
bad.
fine.
But the earlier the better,
Hmm.
basically. The moment they start letting in is kind of when you want to get there, because unless you like have a way to get there by foot, in which
Right.
case, don't bother parking, just walk there.
Yeah,
So
that would be much better. I feel like if you could, is there anything around there like campgrounds or hotels or anything?
I think there might be a hotel or two. I'd have to search it up though, but I can do that
Okay.
right now. Um,
I've heard actually like pricing for hotels even during that is reasonable because Albuquerque is not like a huge tourist destination, so the travel prices like the lodging there generally is pretty
yeah.
low, and even during like the peak time, like that time of year, it's still relatively reasonable for a major city. Like if you go anywhere else, I've heard that it's like the same price all year round. So it's like,
Yeah. Looking it up, I think the prices are in terms of like hotels, comfort suites, holiday inns, um, they're all relatively close to the park. The park is like kind of on the edge of town,
okay,
so um, they all range from like $50 to like
oh,
$120
that
in
really
terms of
isn't bad.
pricing.
It
Yeah,
really isn't bad.
yeah.
But okay,
So
so at the event, is it just the balloons or are there other things going on?
there are plenty of other things going on as well. Usually it's kind of the same. If you've been there like 2 or 3 years in a row, you might have the experience of being bored. But if you're traveling there for the first time, then you're bound to have something fun. They've got plenty of food stands. I'm pretty sure they've got cotton candy there. They've also got funnel cakes, popcorn. There's plenty of food to eat.
Okay,
It's
gotcha.
like it's all carnival food, but it's all well served, I think. And there are also booths to buy like art from local artists as well as like clothes and stuff like that. I have
Oh, okay.
a hat from the Balloon Fiesta that I think is like I'm trying to remember. It's like a beanie, but it's got like the little lassos on it, and
Right, the
it's
side things. The balloon festival, is that like an all day thing? Like if you go there, are you just generally should write off your day?
yeah, you can stay there like I think all day. I think the only thing would be parking, but
Okay.
I don't know if they have parking meters. I think once you're parked there, you're like parked. So, um, like you can stay there for the rest of the day, and it is a very all-day event, or it's at least like a half-day event that you could stay there.
Well, I
I
know.
mean,
I was listening a little bit yesterday when I was researching it, and it sounded like there's only one place that offers balloon rides for travelers, and it was really expensive per person. Like it was like $250 or $350 per person to go on it. I'd have to look it up, but it they are saying that a lot of them are just privately owned balloons. So unless you actually know the businesses running them or the people, it's hard to get a
yeah,
ride, right?
yeah, it's difficult. I, I mean, I think my parents, like, while I was growing up, I don't think they would have said yes, like, go on this hot air balloon because they would have been like terrified.
Right.
But um, I think that it is kind of like you have to know the person and you have to know who is flying the hot air balloon. I do know of people from school or from my high school that were able to ride in hot air balloons because they knew the person. So,
We have a day at the hot air balloon. So
yeah.
what else? What other events are there around town that we should go to?
Well, other events that you should go to, or other places you should go to,
Hmm.
you should definitely or at least spend like half a day on one of the hiking trails that we've got, and it's usually up in the mountain area, up in the San Diaz area, which is basically like my neighborhood. I live in Sandia Heights,
Okay.
um, and which is a lovely neighborhood, and you can always see the sunset beautifully. I would
Oh, okay.
suggest hiking up early morning or late afternoon. You wouldn't have to deal with so much heat in the morning,
Right.
but
Right.
in the afternoon you would be able to see the sunset. And we've got plenty. I'm trying to remember what kind of trails there are, but even just like exiting off of one of the trails on Tramway,
Hmm.
you can like park your car somewhere and find a place to hike, even if it's just along the side of the road. We also have the tram, which is basically like the line up to the top of the mountain.
Oh,
So
okay.
you can also view the sunset there. I went with a friend last year. Wow, that feels weird to say because it feels like yesterday. But I went with my friend because she had never been on top of the tram before, and I was back in town visiting for a bit, and she was like, "Come on, we're gonna go."
Yeah. Yeah.
So we just booked a ride up the top of the mountain, and we watched the sunset basically while we were going up the tram. So that's one of the things I would suggest is going on the
Yeah. That
tram.
sounds incredible.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things. Like, unless you're afraid of heights, I think it's a great experience. Like, if you're afraid of heights, don't go up on the tram because you're probably going to be a little bit scared.
Right.
But in terms of views, you can't get like any better of a view of Albuquerque.
Right. Just close your eyes until you're up at the top, right?
Yeah.
What
Um,
kind of foliage is there? Because you were mentioning going on like a hiking trail, and I can't actually picture like what kind of plants there are or what the environment's like. Because it's more desert, like, right?
yes,
Okay.
it is very desert. You're bound to see quite a bit of cactus. I know that pine trees are probably the best kinds of trees that grow in this environment.
Really?
Um, yeah, I like, or at least on top of the mountain.
Okay. Yeah.
Not that plants and trees normally grow in this environment, but in terms of trees, that's like the most likely to grow.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah. Because I was just trying to picture like how dense the hiking trail would be with foliage, and what kind it would be. Because I don't have the mental image for it. The Rio Grande is like near there as well, right?
yes, the Rio Grande is also in Albuquerque.
Hmm.
I I think the only thing is that from my perspective, I was always disappointed seeing the Rio Grande as like you hear big river and you're like,
Right.
oh, it's a big river,
It
but
has
like
the grandest name.
yeah, it's got the grandest name, and then you see it, you're like, oh, this kind of looks like a really wide stream. Uh,
Oh no.
in terms of like, there's literally a river right outside my window in Kansas City, and that's more, or I guess deeper and like wider than the Rio Grande is. But the reason like Rio Grande is on the map is because it's the water supply,
Right.
like in New Mexico, and it like stretches throughout so much of Albuquerque. So it is somewhat impressive. I wouldn't necessarily say like that's like one of the last things you do on the trip. Like if you don't have anything else that you want to do. I think you mentioned it in the email, but one of the things I would suggest in terms of visiting Albuquerque, like in terms of local stores and places to go,
Hmm.
is Nob Hill because it's right near the University of New Mexico,
Right.
which is a college there. But there are a ton of local stores and restaurants. And it's really, it's like young and it's kind of vibrant.
Okay.
One of the recommendations I would give, I think it's called Empire Board Games. No, that sounds wrong. It's Empire Games or something. Let me look it up.
All right.
But yes, Empire Board Game Library. That one, my friend showed it to me over, I think, not this last winter break, but like 2 winter breaks ago.
Okay.
She showed it to me, and it's like this nice little quaint coffee shop kind of vibe, but they've got board games, and on Fridays and Saturday nights, you can come in with a couple of friends and play whatever board game you're interested in.
So is it just board games laid out for you, or you bring your own, or?
They have shelves in the store, and you like look through them, and basically you pick them up, and so long as you put them back,
That's awesome.
you get to play. Yeah,
That's a really cool thing to go and do with your friends. I wish we had something like that, actually. I don't know. That sounds awesome. Well,
I think they also have D&D nights as well, but
well, that makes
that's
sense. We have some of those like here, like just board game. Those are usually board game shops, but having that somewhere like that, like a cafe kind of thing,
yeah, like
that's way cool.
got nice sandwiches and a lot of coffee too, so that's really fun.
I've heard that the food there is generally quite spicy.
Yes, Albuquerque is known for its spicy food. Our state question, and it's funny that we have a state question, is red or green chili.
Right,
So,
right. I've heard that, and then the most common answer is on the side because it determines like the heat of the chilies is determined by the time of year, right?
I believe so, yeah.
And
I
you can say Christmas. I've heard too.
Yes, Christmas is one. Red and green chili, for sure. Um, I worked at Santiago's, the restaurant at the base of the tram, for 2 summers or so. It was a while back, but I would always like have trouble with was it like my patrons, and like I would ask my other servers, I'm like, which one is spicier? And I would always get mixed results where it was like, oh, green spicier, no, red spicier.
Day to
And
day.
I don't know. So I just, whenever I was asking that question, and someone was like, which one is spicy? My thought process when I've had both is that green is usually milder, or it doesn't burn me as much.
Yeah.
But don't quote me on that.
Well, it is different
Yeah,
heat.
but-
Yeah. Well, is there anything else that you would recommend around town? Are there
Since
any
we're speaking out,
museums?
there are museums. Thank you for mentioning it. There's the Albuquerque Science and Nuclear Museum.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nuclear Science Museum is actually the
Right,
official.
because a lot of nuclear tests were held in New Mexico, correct?
Yes, which is one of the cool things about it. And they have summer programs for kids, but they've got amazing artifacts in the museum,
Mm.
and like memorabilia as well as like planes.
Right,
Like
they have like some big replica plane in the back, right? Or something like that. It's not, I don't
they've
even
got,
think it's a replica.
they've got multiple like fighter jets and like cargo planes for it. They also, in the front lobby, I'm remembering this now, as well as looking at the photo, but they've got like a really nice tiled out uh, periodic table of elements, which I think is like one of the nicer touches to the museum.
Huh. I've heard it has a really good breakdown for kids of like how all of it works, just nuclear energy, all of it.
Yeah, And it's also really fun as like an adult to
Mhm.
look at it too, 'cause you get a really good scope of like how these or how it worked and how like the missiles worked, and it's really cool. It's a good museum. As and if you're more on the artistic side, like
Mhm.
us, the Albuquerque Museum of Art and History is also a great stop.
Okay.
Too. I'm pretty sure they update their galleries constantly. So not like constantly in the sense that like every month it changes, but like enough where no matter what time of year you'd never be disappointed with the work. And the
Okay.
sculptures outside even are just beautiful.
Is it contemporary work or historical or
Um
kind of a mix?
Kind of a mix.
Okay.
I They have a lot of the galleries kind of in I want to see the back, but I feel like that doesn't make sense if you look at the like architecture of it. But towards the back of the museum, they have work by contemporary artists in the museum, as well as artists in high school too. They also
Oh,
exhibit shows.
okay.
Um, I think my graduating year, 2014, they had a photography exhibit in some of the galleries from students that were photographers in high school. So,
Oh, that's really cool. Well,
yeah,
speaking of, we were just talking about other things. It reminded me, in some weird way, of Breaking Bad. We were talking about it a little bit before we
yeah.
started. But yeah, so since Breaking Bad was filmed there, I've heard that there are tours that are specialized in just like taking people around to show. I mean, obviously, that is a tourist kind of thing.
Yeah.
If people are there for the balloon festival, I feel like there's probably like a Walter White balloon, and
Probably. I'm sure there's one.
it may be a little bit out of vogue now, but you know.
Albuquerque Breaking Bad tours. So it is a thing. There are RV tours, and there's also, if you would like to, there's a the first two sites seem like a do-it-yourself Breaking Bad tour of Albuquerque, where you get to see like stops and places from Breaking Bad, and like kudos to the directors and the writers for keeping it in Albuquerque
Yeah,
and
actually filming it. Yeah,
also putting us on the map for like drug cartels and stuff.
yeah, yeah. Really cool reputation.
For sure, Breaking Bad paints this like very dark and gritty depiction of Albuquerque, but Albuquerque is a genuinely nice and kind place, I believe. I mean, one of the things that I always know that my parents say about the town is that they love the people here mostly. It's that
Mm.
everyone's nice here, everyone knows each other. So,
So, do you have anything else for Albuquerque that you want to go over?
I'm trying to think.
Because I've got like a set of like exit questions too.
The only other thing that I would like to add is that I think part of the reason I think that Albuquerque is such a beautiful city and such a beautiful place to go in general, um, are like our state motto is like land of enchantment, which sounds really corny and cheesy, but when you're there, it is kind of true. Like Albuquerque is one of the cities with the most open space around it. And by
Mm.
open space, I mean like nature and the environment and not having, I guess, too much government influence. Like we have specific laws that kind of prevent us from really exceeding like our boundaries, I would say. Like you're always going to be able to interact with the environment in Albuquerque, I feel like, as opposed to maybe other cities.
Right, like
Um,
as soon as you get out of downtown, it's just suburb, suburb, suburb.
yeah.
And there it's a little bit more just nature immediately. So, like, if you go out into the desert a little bit, how far would you have to go to get like a really good view of the night sky? Because I feel like you could probably do it really easily there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember. There's like it is pretty easy. If like I think it's like at most like 30 minutes to get out of the city,
Oh
basically.
wow, okay.
Like by car. I like it's pretty easy to get out there and just go on the open road and like see the sunset. And again, I think my top picks for seeing the sunset are the Sandia Heights. So
Hmm.
basically at the base of the mountain or going on top of the tram, which I know I already suggested because that's where you get like the best view
Yeah.
of the sunset. And I mean, for me, growing up there, I know that one of the reasons it's like such a popular tourist attraction is because of its skies, because
Mhm.
there's so much room for you to see the sky, and it's never a dull moment with that sky. And I think whenever I'm painting a sky in my pieces, I'm usually painting an Albuquerque sunset.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. All right, so I've got the exit questions. If you're
All
ready
right.
for it. What is something that is often recommended that you wouldn't recommend?
Hmm.
I feel like
I
Rio Grande was like touching that.
Yeah, I think Rio Grande probably covers it, but that would be like my only thing, or I think that, or maybe camping. I would say you'd have to find like the right place to camp, but every time that I've camped in Albuquerque or like the outside of Albuquerque, whenever I went on like a camping trip in state, it was always kind of like it was never bad. It was just like there's not like a lot of soft ground, I guess, because of the dirt
Right.
and because it's a desert. It's like it's dry. Like you're not exactly bound to have a comfortable time sleeping in the
Right.
desert. So, but I mean, that's even just like the vaguest of memories. So I can't like I'm sure someone's camped in Albuquerque and is like, I loved it.
Right.
So
You got to know what you're getting into, really. If you go in loving desert and loving sleeping on hard ground, you're gonna have a fun time.
yeah,
Or if you find the right place, maybe. Maybe there's a
yeah,
pretty campground along the Rio Grande.
yeah.
Combine the two, and then it becomes worth it. All right. So, anything someone should know before going to Albuquerque?
It is really dry, so prepare for maybe a lack of weather, or I guess a lack of like rain and clouds and such.
Okay.
Well, not necessarily clouds, but like rain and snow. But when you do see rain and snow in Albuquerque, it is really wonderful. Like everyone kind of freaks out in a good way because
Right.
they're like, woo, 30 seconds of rain.
Snow? You guys have gotten snow?
We have actually. It does sound surprising, but in the winter when it gets cold, really cold, but it usually only gets like the coldest is like 30 degrees or maybe like 29 degrees. I don't ever remember it getting below like 29 degrees in Albuquerque, truth be told. But
Hmm.
when it snows, it is really beautiful in the Sandia Mountains, and just kind of in general, like the town looks very winter wonderland-esque.
I'm
But
sure everyone must panic.
the roads are like everyone's gone crazy, and there's like not even an inch of snow on the ground.
Right.
It's just like, it's snowing outside, guys. Got to stay indoors. And like big cities are like, an inch of snow, please.
Well, even Portland, we don't do that. Like, if there's any snow, it shuts down here. And I'm from Michigan, so it's like they're used to like 4 feet of snow, and it's still like school's not canceled. So it's always funny to me when that happens. Okay, so something that makes you laugh and say only in Albuquerque.
Definitely I think it's definitely the like red or green chili thing. Like only in Albuquerque would you like experience that question, like, or even just kind of like chili, I guess, or that, or like the popularization of blue crystal candies are popular from Breaking Bad.
Oh, that makes sense.
So like when I think about it, I'm like, yeah, only in Albuquerque.
Yeah, but you get to have like a fake meth candy. What is something that you haven't done yet that you would like to?
I know I've like barely touched on the amount of museums
Mhm.
that exist in Albuquerque. Like there are plenty more, and I would like to see, and even just like traveling in general, but traveling in state. I haven't It's been a really long time, and I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm acquainted with it anymore, but I would suggest Old Town Albuquerque. I think the last
Okay.
time I went was like a child, but um, I haven't done it in a long time, and I think um, the weekend it's usually open where you just tour the environment. But Old Town Albuquerque is a really great place to look at from what I
Okay.
remember. But oh, and like it is in state, Carlsbad Caverns. It is quite a bit a ways away. It's like 4 hours and 36 minutes. So maybe
So
not. Like you
it
have to
would be
make
a
it.
full day trip.
Yeah,
Well, probably overnight, really.
yeah. But the caverns are really beautiful.
So you
If
can go in them.
Yeah, you can walk down in them and explore them. The front entrance really looks wonderful. It kind of like is like a snake path.
Hmm.
And this is just me looking at like the Google images.
Right.
Like that's something I would say that maybe that I would suggest to someone who wants to go. That or I think it's like the White Sands area, but that's also again like a day trip. White Sands, if you search it up, White Sands, New Mexico is really fun. It's a national monument. It's a national park. So it's basically just miles and miles of white sand, which like sounds
Oh,
really
you're right.
but it's really cool and
It
really
looks
beautiful.
like snow.
Yeah,
That is incredible, actually. That would definitely be going to like worth going to, I think. That's awesome. And
yeah.
all right, if you close your eyes and picture one beautiful place, the most beautiful place in Albuquerque, where would it be, and what would you be looking at?
I think the most beautiful place for me is I know I've already mentioned it, but and it's a cliche, but I'm gonna keep going with it. It's
Mm.
the top of the it's at the base of the tram, right as sunset hits, when you see the city skyline start to light up and the sunset lights or the sunset clouds start to light up and everything is just kind of beautiful from that parking lot. You could stay there for an hour and you wouldn't be bored. You would just be captivated by everything that's happening. The city lights, the clouds. I mean, to me, that's the most beautiful. Like,
Mm.
it's one of the most amazing things I've seen, and I know that I've seen.
You got to do it every single time you go there. It's
Yeah.
like a must, definitely. All right, so before we go, do you want to plug any projects or work that you're doing, or where can we find you around the web?
Well, you can find me at my Instagram handle at like a gunshot. Um, it's normally where I post my illustrations and projects that I'm working on. I I have two projects that I'm working on. One piece is pretty risque, so I'm not gonna go into too much detail. You'll just have to see it when it's done, and it'll probably be blocked.
People can
But
seek it out.
but it the pro or the that project is called Bacchanal, and it's a
Hmm, okay,
pretty sexual piece.
sounds fun.
It's a good time. It's a good time. I started it on Valentine's Day, and I wish I had finished it like for Valentine's Day because I think a lot of people would have enjoyed it.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah.
that's fine. I can keep selling it. Like I can always just say I know Valentine's Day has passed, but like here's a piece for your loved ones. Um, and then the other project that I'm working on is also the same size. I forgot to mention that these are big pieces. They're 22 by 30
Okay.
pieces. And the other piece is a King Arthur piece where I am trying to canonize. It's really loose. The like stories and tellings of King Arthur.
Oh
Um,
wow.
most of these you can find on my story. I think I've saved some of the highlights for the King Arthur one. I have yet to save for the Bacchanal series, but I'm working on both of them. They'll hopefully be done within the next month, maybe
Well,
month and
awesome.
yeah,
Be generous to yourself. Give it a month and a half. It takes time. But thank you so much for joining me.
yeah. Thank you for calling me. This is a great experience.
Yep, all the links will be down below and in the show notes. All right, thank you very much. Thanks for listening. If you want to contribute to An Illustrated World, feel free to email me at illustratedworldpodcast@gmail.com. If you live somewhere, you just traveled somewhere recently and you want to talk about it, feel free to let me know. We can see about putting together an episode. If you want to support An Illustrated World, you can click the link to the Patreon below or subscribe and like this video. I should be doing a couple more other cool places soon. We'll see how it goes. Thanks for watching.